Southern Football and Netball League is a fledgling competition in metropolitan Melbourne, just over 20 years old. And in its history, one name stands out. A determined big man, a revered goal kicker and successful coach, John Bennett is perhaps one of the most highly respected figures in Southern football history, so much so that a medal has been struck in his name to honour the fairest and best player in its competition. He's got some great stories from a long career and strong views on football at the same time. Today we get to share some of those stories and views. This is the John Bennett story.
There's a mark taken by Muller. Muller in towards Bennett in front of Dermott. Here comes Bennett's next goal. Bennett 3 goals. Port Sandringham 15 goals. That's the one they wanted, Sandringham. They're 15-13, 107. And Port 24-11, 155. You'll see here that Dermott lets Bennett get on his own. And that does relieve the pressure for Sandringham, but they're still a long way down. I'm sure that the former Port Melbourne committee man, Charlie Warren, who's not well...
John Bennett, thanks for your time.
No problem, Wiz.
Let's start with your junior footy career, East Brighton Junior Football Club. A decorated junior career, I assume?
I wouldn't. We're dating back a long time, but I wouldn't say it was a decorated junior career. It was an interesting junior career. I started East Brighton under 13s, played the 2 years there, and obviously then the 2 years you go to under 15s, but I didn't quite last the 2 under 15s and played an extra half a year in the under 17s. So I played 2.5 in the under 17s. Played in 4 losing grand finals as a junior.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So 1979 arrives and you find yourself at the St Kilda Football Club as an under 19 player.
Yes.
How did that happen? And were you a Saints fan as a kid?
No, Carlton boy.
Yeah.
Grew up as a Carlton boy. I actually St Kilda. I found myself back in those days. You used to get asked up by the St Kilda Footy Club. They'd ask the coach of the under 17s to send up 3 or 4 players. But I wasn't on the list, so I got a bit dirty about that. So I thought, I took myself up. And Bob Murray was coach at the time. Mm-hmm. And as everyone was walking in for their tick off their names, my name wasn't on the list, of course. So I said to him, listen, they've made a blue. And he's going, oh, you're not on the list, you're not on the list. I said, no, they've made a blue, I'm definitely on the list. And that. So obviously, the amount of kids that were coming through, we didn't have time for all that, just wrote my name on the list and away we went. So I got through the first initial break,
right,
and obviously trained all right. And as it turned out, I survived, and actually the other 3 from East Brighton all got the see you later.
So you bluffed your way into the St Kilda Football Club?
So yeah, I sort of self-invited myself. I thought I was probably travelling all right.
And so at 19 years of age, a senior debut for the Saints. So young John Bennett running around with his heroes.
Yes.
What was going through your mind?
Oh, lots. Because it just sort of come on from obviously under 17s and then playing under 19s, and then I got a few games in the reserves, and then the following year after that, I actually was called up. I wasn't picked in the selected side. It was an emergency, and someone pulled out because it was Collingwood at Collingwood.
Right.
And
that's pretty scary for a young fella.
Well, it was the same day Dennis Banks played his first game, and we had blokes like Robbie Muir, Don Disher, Jeff Saru. It was a pretty intense game, to say the least. So when all the fights and that broke out, I just sort of stood next to Banksy and we just pretended we were having a blue.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure that would happen these days.
No, and just got through the break because it was our first day out, full house at Collingwood, and it'll stay in my mind forever, especially coming off the ground at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Getting spat at and abused. Welcome to VFL footy.
Yeah. So 2 more years at the Saints then, a fair bit of senior footy, and then a move to Sandringham halfway through the season. What went on there? Didn't get on well with Tony Jewell?
Yeah, I sort of didn't know where I was at, because I actually, when I sort of broke on the scene, started off, had a couple of really good games, then fell away and in and out of the side, and just was weighing up what I was doing. So things weren't sort of going my way, and you're young and silly and make silly mistakes. So I went to Sandy to weigh up my options of what I was going to do moving forward.
Okay, so the following year you turned up at Footscray, 84.
I did. I was actually pursued by Footscray, and I was also pursued by Hawthorn. And yeah, they were both powerful clubs too. But in saying that, I went to Footscray, and I must admit it was a fantastic footy club. But of course, I come up against a pretty strong forward line. With Simon Beasley was a full forward at the stage, and then Jimmy Edmonds at centre forward captain, and the McPherson brothers. So it made it hard for me to get a game. I only played 3 games. I kicked 3, 3 and 2 in those 3 games. And
But about 80 goals in the
I kicked 84 in the reserves. Won the
so leading
reserve.
VFL,
Won the reserves goal kicking. And I think I had a couple of weeks holiday just to.
As well.
Still had a bit of frustration going around.
Frustration didn't get the ton, perhaps. So back to St Kilda in 85 and 86.
Yeah, well,
and they were the good times.
Yeah, that come about back to St Kilda. Ian Stewart moved in around the corner from me and took over as the general manager, and sort of knew the family, and he was chafing at the bit to get me back. And I sort of weighed up like it was going to be tough at the Doggies, a bit of travelling, and back to where I was. And as it turned out, it was a good decision. Yeah.
Okay, so 85 and 86, plenty of games there.
Yeah.
But then Sandringham from 87 to 89. So finished out the 80s back at Sandy.
Yeah, finished 86 at St Kilda.
Yes.
And yeah, my time was sort of coming up then, so I went back to Sandy, which I'd actually always followed Sandringham too, and always wanted to play for them. And sort of, because I had that half year there, I sort of felt, and they were fantastic. I mean, I felt I owed it to them to go back there for the remaining couple of years of that level of footy.
So what were the highlights?
Oh, no, that was fantastic at Sandy. I mean, I got there and I was super fit. So
Johnny Bennett, super fit.
yeah, I was actually, and so I sort of had to lead by example, sort of thing, because your expectations are high coming back. But it didn't take them long, the players, to get me into their way of thinking.
Yeah.
And I started up a Monday lunch and get all the boys, because we played Sundays, and I had a Lloyd soft drink business, so I didn't work Monday. So I started up a Monday luncheon, and it grew from 10 all of a sudden to 100.
Now that sounds more like you.
I had the local restaurant blokes doing the kitchen. There were Mad Sandy supporters from Hampton, and we had light entertainment. Because it was a boys only function back then, you were allowed to have them, and some light entertainment, some girls up front, and the joint got out of control in the end. We had local councillors, had the police there, everyone. So yeah, they were the days. They were interesting, but they had a ball at Sandy.
So you played VFL footy under 5 different coaches, including Mick Malthouse, Mike Patterson, Tony Jewell. Who was your greatest influence?
On influence, on the coaching, being a Carlton supporter, like I thought when Jez had come to St Kilda, it was like a dream come true. But unfortunately, Jez probably didn't rank him one of my better coaches.
Right.
But out of all them, and Mick Malthouse was just pretty new to the Caper, I would say Graham Jelly. Yeah. And mainly people say, why Graham Jelly? I actually played a little bit with him, and then he became coach, but he was hands-on players coach, and he was basically straight out of the system too.
We're going to ask you about those influences a little later on. We'll get to your coaching career. But what about teammates? And through that era, you would have had a few. Trevor Barker, Robbie Muir, of course, the great Robbie Muir. Dougie Hawkins at Footscray. I imagine that you would have got on fairly well with him. Yeah.
Well, Trevor took me under his wing actually at St Kilda when I first got there, and he was just fantastic. He actually worked for the club and used to take me on footy promotion things. They used to go in the state, so I used to sort of get that Guernsey now and then, go up to Queensland after the footy for the Sunday or Monday, and they were interesting times with Trevor, I must admit. But the great part about him, like, he's a superstar of this footy club, but it didn't matter who you were, he didn't brush anyone. I think that's why he was so popular, like, you know, from your Barry Breens and Gary Collings and Jeff Saruz and all that. I mean, to me, they were the same to Bucks.
Yeah.
And that's how he treated everyone. And like, he was just fantastic with supporters. His time, he just couldn't give enough time to everyone.
Yeah, yeah, and sadly missed too, I guess, John.
Yeah, and yeah, terrible what happened at the end. And then on Robbie Muir, completely different kettle of fish.
Yeah, definitely.
And on those two, I ended up talking them into coming down to play cricket with me at Cluden.
Is that right?
Yeah, I recruited a few St Kilda boys and we ended up getting a good side together, but Robbie was a bloke you couldn't get rid of in the end. And when he gave it away, he used to ring me up at all hours of the night and pester me, and he's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And he'd be on, boys are going, when we move up to when I was in local footy, but blokes would go on footy trips and run into him, and he'd be straight on the phone to me. You know, get to Adelaide, get to Darwin, get to here. Yeah.
So he liked a good time.
He was different, and then of course, I mean, Dougie Hawkins was, you know, and we're still mates now. Doug, you speak to him a lot. Yeah, legend of Footscray, and he's in the same mould as Trevor Barker, basically. And that's why those blokes are so loved at those clubs and
popular figures. And
it just treated everyone the same, whether you played one game there or like I only played 3 games there, and I still speak to Dougie all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, amazing. So I notice that you share a birthday with the great Gary Ablett Sr., born on the same day.
I do.
You were done with league footy in '86. He was just getting started. So what was the difference between the two? Was it just the volume of goals, John, or?
Oh, well, I was a left footer and he was a right footer.
Good answer.
So probably I was a bit sharper on the left than him, and he wasn't bad on the right.
Yeah.
But yeah, he probably the volume of goals, I'd say.
So 10 years after you started, your big league career's over and you're 30 years of age, but plenty of footy left in you. So back home to East Brighton, this time as coach. So what sort of shape were they in when you got there?
Well, I was debating whether to go back. I had a year. I thought I had another year at Sandy, and President at the time, Jeff Humphreys, and Secretary Damon Rice sort of pursued me hardly to come back and get the job, and they caused a bit of a coup, those two, to get me over the line, because I think the committee voted against it, but 2 votes sort of outweighed the other 8. I don't know how that happens, but it was President and Secretary.
Happens in footy clubs all the time.
Yeah, it doesn't it? So yeah, got the job, and they just come up from 2nd division. I think it was their 2nd year up, and yeah, I thought they were pretty much just need a couple of players. And the first year, I don't even think. No, first year we didn't make the final. So
yeah, well, it was
under a bit of pressure.
It was the start of a real golden era for the Vampires in some respects. It's as playing coach, 4 grand finals in 5 years. Yeah,
well, the first one didn't start off the way they wanted it to, because they finished 5th the year before, and I think we just lamented back at 5th or 6th. But the next year it improved dramatically, and they won the premiership.
Yeah, that's right. And then another one.
An amazing upset, and in that era, the best side we had was probably in '92. We actually finished on top of the ladder, and we played South District's preliminary final day, and were depleted with injuries. We were 30 points up at 3/4 time, and we lost. Myself, Craig Ross, 3 of us went off in the first couple of minutes of the last quarter, and they got over the top of us, so that was heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But then bounced back for another upset to Noble in '93, and probably one of our better years. A lot of blokes retired after '93. We actually made the grand final in '94, which I thought was, everyone was expecting us to drop right back to the pack, but that was probably one of the better years just to coach with no expectation and still make the grand final.
Yeah, they were pretty good to you, East Brighton, weren't they?
Yeah, fantastic.
Yeah. So at the end of '98, you walked away from footy altogether. Just needed a break.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just time for a rest.
I was playing then. I was 38, so yeah, I thought I'd better have a
spell.
Look at my career at that stage.
And Heatherton comes to the rescue in 2002, I think it was, and they were a little bit of a.
I don't know if they come to the rescue.
Well, it might have been the other way around, John.
I got.
There was a fair bit of turmoil around at the time, though, wasn't there?
Oh, you got coached into the job by and the president of East Brighton, Jeff Humphreys, was one who was mates with the president of Heatherton, Ken Davis, helped make up my mind about coming, Jeffrey sort of said, "You've had the good end of the stick. Let's see how you go, starting from the other end."
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a fair call. Fair call.
Interesting to see how you went.
And the first year was very tough. It
would have been. But he turned around pretty quickly. Lost the grand final 2005 and then followed up with a flag in 2006.
Yes.
Yeah. What are your recollections of those years?
2006 we beat East Malvern, actually.
Right.
Yeah, I had a long history of East Malvern when I was back at East Brighton in finals. But yeah, fantastic. To win a premiership, but when the club hasn't won one for a while, you know, you come back to the rooms and the joints buzzing, and it's just an amazing, you know, 4 years up the track how a footy club, it just shows how a footy club can turn around. I mean, some footy clubs don't win them for years on end, but and it doesn't matter if it's third, second, first. Premierships just bring people. People want success.
Yeah, that's right. They enjoy it.
You know, and supporters that have been around the footy club for a long time just all come back. And I mean, on the day of, you know, I think East Malvern were favourites again, but you know, the boys just stood up throughout the year, and a different scenario from me when I was playing. To then all of a sudden I'm on the fence. I got my hands tied a bit more. I must admit it was a different feeling.
Well, I can remember that day and just sneaking in at the back of your three-quarter time huddle as you spoke to your players against East Malvern that day. Yeah. Or Taronga Malvern as they were.
Yeah, Taronga Malvern.
Can you remember what you said?
Oh, no.
Because I think you lifted them up and they were in a bit of trouble.
I'm sure I would have said plenty.
Yeah.
I was known for probably more some fiery speeches than, geez, I don't know how it go today, but boys would pack up and go home.
Oh, yeah, it's a different era these days, isn't it? So 3 grand finals in 5 years for Heatherton, 2 flags.
And out of that, the 209 one, probably, you know, one of my proudest moments in footy. I had the pleasure of coaching my son to his first senior premiership, and he was only 18.
He was very young.
Yeah, and just to share that with him, sort of like my first one back in 91, or 92, he's only a baby, and I got 94, I was knocked out, and he was sitting on me in the coach's box, sitting on my leg and trying to work out what's going on here. And sort of then up the track, you're coaching, you know, your own son and in that environment, because he played the year before, he was only 17.
That's right.
And when we lost, and so he's had a taste of both, and he broke his wrist, and me being me, he said, "Oh, it's only a sprained wrist, you'll be right, we'll tape it up," and there you go. Well, I don't think his mother was happy with him.
No, a bit of trouble there.
But no, I'd say to do that, like, just sort of was the last jigsaw in the whole puzzle to sort of go to bed with, and time to call it Nelly quits.
Yeah, well,
and I coached 1 more year because we went into first division.
That's
just
right.
to try and keep that stability.
Just build that platform.
And we had a pretty good year too. Yeah.
So all up, 97 games of VFA and VFL football, and then coaching over 300 games in the SFL. 7 grand finals, 4 premierships. What's your fondest memory of all of that? What's your favourite time?
Oh, I think that initial premiership at East Brighton in 91, and because of the opponents being so powerful, we finished 4th. We didn't expect to make the finals, and just written off all the way through, even the finals, and just to have that taste of senior, that was the first taste of senior footy premiership, like, it was amazing. I still never forget the day I walked around the corner there at East Brighton back to the rooms, and when I got back, because I lived just up the road, and I just wanted to go home for half an hour and just sit down and just think about what actually happened. And when I actually got back to the rooms, it was absolutely, they were standing out the front. And it was like walking around the corner and you're a rock star just for that 3 minutes. The joint just went berserk when I walked around the corner, and I'll never forget that walk around the corner ever. And I mean, they're all fantastic, you know, and obviously the first one at Heatherton was fantastic. Same sort of scenario.
So you've stayed on at the Tunners now as an administrator. Some tough times recently though?
Well, that's what footy's about. It's about the good times and the tougher times, and people good in footy survive the tough times to get the good times. And that's my philosophy. You
Yeah,
can't
no,
go
that's
through the
good.
whole lot, and you can't go club chasing just for success. So if you're fair dinkum, you dig in, and things change. It's a roller coaster footy. You're up and down and up and down and up and down. And it'd be great to be at the top every year, but it doesn't happen.
Yeah, it's a good message too, John.
Yeah.
So what's next in the life of John Bennett? I know Josh is playing for Ainsley in the NEAFL, so a bit more time watching him run around?
Yeah, he's still striving, I suppose, that glimmer of hope still to get drafted still. And
Yeah.
he's having a ripper year at the
Yeah,
moment,
yeah.
and he's just made the interstate side in the new, which is a fantastic effort, sort of coming from here last year and back to there.
Has he got the John Bennett magic?
Oh, well, he's a right footer, so that you lose a little bit always. So the left footer's just a little bit extra, classy. But the good thing, Josh gives it his best, and that's, at the end of the day, he's getting the most out of, I reckon, what he can achieve. And
That's all you can ask.
you need a little bit of luck too,
Yeah.
and if he just gets that. But between that and obviously, I'd like to see this place obviously thriving back in First Division, which will take a bit of time. Otherwise, you can stay at home and do nothing, and that helps no one.
Yeah, no fun in that.
That's it.
So you were recently described, John, on the SNFL website, as arguably the best player to grace the Southern Football League. He was classy, strong, skillful, and a true leader. Is that how you describe yourself?
Well, I better buy. Who said that? I better give him a slab.
So if you had to define John Bennett in a few words.
I was just a good, honest player.
Good, honest player.
Good, honest player. Had me days out.
Yeah. Okay. John,
Like coaching and like everything, you have your good days, you have your bad. If your good can outweigh your bad, you usually have a good career. So I reckon I had probably a few more better ones than bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good story, John. Your contribution to Southern football has been massive, and you're a genuine ornament to the game in this part of Melbourne in particular. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Wiz.
Well done.
Very good.